Hello, Stormy. Hello, Stormy. What are you doing? Hmm? All right. I think I'm finally live. How are you all today? Just waiting for some more people to get in here. Stormy wants to be the center of attention today, as you can see. This is our Ramadan cat. One of them. One of 5 Ramadan cats. Stormy. We're just waiting for some people to get in here. How are y'all doing today? Usually it takes a second for the chat to really get going. A lot of the times too, it's like things don't really start rolling until like an hour in, and I'm like, by that point, like I'm like wrapping up the stream. You know what I mean? So I'm like, why am I not able to get people in here until an hour into the stream? Okay, Stormy. All right, we're getting a little too... We gotta get down. There we go. Hello. Yes, we're doing a stream today. I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about like Lent and the experience I've had this Lent, because I was gonna make some short form content about it, but I have a sermon that's gonna be coming out. There's gonna be a sermon stream on Sunday after church. Not exactly sure what time we're gonna be doing that, because I gotta wait for everyone to clear out of the church, right? Like, yes. Yes, Heather is having a blessed Ramadan. But I gotta wait for everybody to clear out of the church, and we're all Appalachian, right? So there is definitely kind of like an Appalachian goodbye that happens at the end of church. And so it takes a second for us to get everyone out of the church. So I never really know what time I'll be able to stream, because the whole time that people are in the church, they're like talking and yelling and running around. So that's just kind of how that goes. But I wanted to kind of just have like a Lent stream with you guys. I am currently very hungry. I gotta say, I am quite hungry. I am doing the Ramadan fast with Heather. Now, as you can see, not entirely. Neither one of us can do the full Ramadan fast because you have to go without water. And both of us have health concerns that make it so that we can't have water. Can't go without water, I should say. So we both have to drink water. And Stormy, are you being good? Go ahead and sit. Your sister's gonna be on the table. My other cat is on the table too. Pearl's over there, so they're like looking at each other. They're like mean mugging. But so I'm a diabetic. Heather has kidney disease. So she is able to do, in terms of food, the full fast from like sunup to sundown. I have to have water and I have to. What are we creeping around for? What are we creeping for? Stormy's decided to be weird today. All right, let's get down. Okay. All right. My cats are going to be menaces during the stream. I can already tell. I can already tell they're going to be menaces. So I have to carry around like nuts and like little snacks in case my blood sugar drops. Usually I can go for the entire day with just the just like a bag, like a little bag of nuts and like a juice. So that's kind of the plan that I've been following lately, is to just have those little snacks in case I start to feel a little weird. And I can usually tell, like, when my blood sugar is about to drop out, I can usually, like, I start to get kind of like a pain right here. And when that happens, I'm like, okay, I have 15 minutes before I hit the floor. So I know my body well enough to know when I have to eat. But other than that, I've been doing the full fast from sunup to sundown. And it has been really nice, actually. It's been very nice. It's hard. The past couple of days, we've slipped up a bit, because it's the most difficult part for us is getting up that early. I don't like getting up at 5 in the morning. That is rough. And getting up at 5 in the morning it's a challenge. To get up before that first prayer and eat, because you have to eat before you do the first prayer of the day. So we've managed to only go a couple days where we haven't gotten up in time. But the first few days we did, and we're getting back on track tomorrow. But it's nice because it almost feels like it empties out a few hours of the day that you wouldn't otherwise have, even though it really doesn't. You know, like at the end of the day, I still have the same amount of hours in a day that I always had, but because they're in the morning, it feels like I have a couple more hours to, like, where I'm like at my best, because I am kind of a morning person. The Cats of Ramadan videos are super cute. They are really cute. Ramadan cats are great. The other ones that have been cracking me up are like the videos of the kids at the mosque that are like acted up. They're like climbing the walls and like running around. Like that, those crack me up. Cause that's just how kids are, man. In every culture, every religion, kids are they're figuring out how to be people, and they're like being Spider-Man up the walls and stuff like that, and jumping all over people while they're trying to pray. And that's just kind of how it goes. And everybody in the community is like kind of accepted it. Like, okay, this is just what the kids do, you know. They're gonna kind of wild out, especially when they get together. By the way, like the stream, that helps it go to other people, so I can get more people in here. I gotta vape off camera, or YouTube will get mad at me. But like I said, it feels like it empties out a few more hours of the day for things to get done. And the 3 old ladies always know how to get them to calm down. Yeah. That's how it is in every place. But sorry, this is also the time of day. I have noticed at 2 p.m. I get stupid. Like, my brain kind of doesn't work as well as it usually would, because it's like, hey, why aren't you eating food? Like, you should be eating food right now. Like, you haven't done that. And I'm pretty upset. That is usually the time of day. This is the time of day that I am the hungriest. Because by like 4 o'clock, I feel like if I can last until 4 o'clock, then the hunger sort of starts to dissipate. But at 2 o'clock is when my brain starts to like shut down. So this was a great time for me to decide to stream. But Heather's had difficulties as well. But like I said, it's because we're a couple, we're kind of just doing this together. It's very convenient that Ramadan and Lent completely overlap this year. Now I have an extra like 14 days because, you know, I have an extra 14 days. So I get to starve for an extra 14 days while my wife gets to eat. And that's just how this goes. We do both observe the fish on Friday rule, just because it's cheaper to just make one meal. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to make two separate meals. And our kids they already don't eat fish, so I have to make them nuggets. Like, every time we have fish, I have to make my kids nuggets because they aren't going to eat the fish. I've tried with them. I've tried to get them to eat fish because it's good for them. But my kids don't want to eat anything that's good for them. So, yeah. I had some other things on this topic I wanted to discuss with you guys, but I can't remember them right now. Half of my church is currently fasting right now too. Like, even the people who aren't like Christian or Muslim are fasting. Like, we have a couple of the pagans who are doing a fast right now, and that's kind of what my upcoming sermon is about. How like a lot of different cultures have, like, cultures who've never even met one another, are chose to fast at some point or another. Like, you could think like, oh, you know, this is just the an Abrahamic faith thing. Like, all of the Abrahamic faiths have it, but it's really every single religion across the world, for the most part, has some sort of fasting ritual. And I found that really fascinating because I'm like, why is it that cultures that had never come into contact with one another still created these sort of fasting rituals? What do human beings gain from fasting, and why have we kind of cast it off in the United States? And I think that, number one, we have like a lot of Protestant influence. I'm not sure exactly when Protestants stopped doing Lent. Let's look it up. Let's learn something together. When did Protestants stop doing Lent? So they stopped observing Lent during the Reformation, in the 16th and 17th centuries. Lutherans and Anglicans continued the practice, but a lot of Calvinists did not. So again, this is like a John Calvin thing. It's John Calvin, right? My brain literally is made of mush right now. So Protestants haven't done they haven't done Lent in a while, and I think that a lot was lost when Protestants stopped doing Lent. because yes, it is a man-made tradition. They view it as like a man-made tradition and not biblical necessarily, though there is fasting in the Bible. Like, there's plenty of fasting that is within the text of the Bible. So I don't know why they chose to give up fasting altogether, because that opened up, I think what I've learned from my fast, like I can't speak for everyone, right? Is that I have, like I said, I got a few more hours in the day. I've also been giving up news. Like, I only watch news after I've already broken fast in the evening. So I really only have time to watch like one news show and not really like endlessly scroll about it. So, I think that it has allowed Americans specifically to take on this kind of identity of consumerism. Because the whole point of Lent is to give something up. The whole point of fasting is to give things up. And kind of disrupt that identity as a consumer, and your relationship with material goods. And I think that we've lost that as Americans. I think it would be very beneficial, actually, for Americans to fast more often. It also creates a solidarity for the poor. I think that it is good for people to remember what it feels like to be really hungry every once in a while. Because then you're like, oh man, I don't want other people to be hungry. Like, this feels terrible and is something that human beings shouldn't have to go through, like, against their will. So I think that, you know, it also fosters a sense of empathy. I think that, I'm trying to think of all of the points that I made. All the things I've been thinking about. Hello! But, yeah, I think that, I think we should bring it back. I think it's a good thing to do. Oh, personal challenges. I think that you should do things that are hard sometimes. I think that, you know, in Islam, there's a phrase, through hardship comes ease. And I think that, you know, there is such a thing as good suffering. And I know that people get, like, thrown off when I say that. They're like, what do you mean there's such a thing as good suffering? But, like, if you go to the gym, for example, and you are really sore, that is a form of suffering. Like, you are suffering. You're sore. Your body hurts. But there's also, like, a good feeling that comes with going to the gym. You know what I mean? So that is what I would kind of define as, like, good suffering, like beneficial suffering. And I think fasting is a form of beneficial suffering, for all the reasons I stated before. Now, if you are suffering purely to suffer, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think you have to have some sort of intention. But the other thing, too, is because my wife and I are doing this together, we have each other to, like, back each other up, right? I think it would be very hard to fast on your own. I think it would be very difficult to fast without someone there to help you. And I don't think that's how it's meant to be done. I think it's meant to be kind of this communal activity, where, hello, wife.
Hello, awesome.
Are you getting water?
No. I'm getting the car keys.
Oh yeah, you do need those.
And my wedding ring.
Oh, can you hand me my wedding ring too, actually? Either one. Just give me both of them.
Yeah.
I thought I had lost my wedding ring, so I went and got a new one, and then I found my wedding ring. So now I have two wedding rings. I love you. Be Be careful driving. But yeah, I think it's supposed to be more of a communal exercise. Something that people do. Of course, my cat's decided to use the litter box right now. But double the marital power. Yeah, exactly. Actually, I might wear them like this. I've never worn both of them at the same time, but they one problem I have is that when it's just the one, they tend to get kind of slippy, like they're gonna fall off my finger. And with both of them, it feels like it holds them on better. I don't know why. But I feel like it would be very difficult to fast alone. And I think, I think about these like weird billionaires, right, that'll go out and they'll fast. And they obviously learn nothing, right? Like, they don't learn, like, empathy or compassion for other human beings from fasting. So, like, I don't know what they're doing. And I have to think that part of it is because it's not, like, a communal activity for them. It's not something they're really doing with others to gain a greater understanding. I think it's something they do as kind of like a personal challenge. And right, like, I think, like I said, personal challenges can be good. But I think that if you are doing it purely as a personal challenge, you're missing out on a lot of the benefits that you can get from a fast. And I think that's kind of how they do it. Like, how long can I go out in the desert and eat nothing and do ayahuasca? You know what I mean? And I don't think they learn anything from that. I don't think you can, because I think it's supposed to be this communal experience where you help each other through it. Like, I don't think I'd be able to do this on my own without my wife. Like, that would be really difficult. And next year, when Lent and Ramadan don't overlap as much, this is going to be a lot harder. And it might get to the point where, like, I just celebrate Ramadan with her instead of celebrating Lent. And maybe I can do Lent as, like, the normal Lent fast, right? Which is just Christian fasting. That's the thing. That's what kills me about, like, a lot of Protestants. It's like, you gave up the easiest religious fast. Like, the Lent fast is very easy. Now, Orthodox fast is a bit rough. But, like, the regular Lent fast is just, like, you give some stuff up and you don't eat meat on Ash Wednesday and then Fridays. Like, it's the easiest fast. I can't fast. I tried it. It makes me violently sick. No, and if you are someone who cannot fast because it makes you ill or you have health problems, just don't do it. Like, that is something, like, I do want to make that disclaimer. Like, if it makes you sick, don't do it. I don't think God wants us to be unhealthy, right? Like, I think God wants us to do things that benefit us, that take care of us, that may challenge us. But if you're getting violently ill from fasting, don't do it. It's a bad idea. Mostly I'm discussing this for other people who may benefit from it, you know? Like, if you can't, you can't. I do recommend, though, even if you can't, like, food fast, right? I do recommend occasionally trying to give things up, right? Like, things that you kind of hold on to. One of the things, like I said, I gave up for Lent was, Arctic Panda is bringing up time away from social media. I'm also taking time away from social media and from the news. Like, and something I've realized that was kind of wild to me is how much better informed I feel now fasting from the news than I did when I was constantly engaging with it. Because now I get, like, the major news stories, right? the big things that I need to know about that people, are really talking about. And the zone is so flooded right now that you almost can't, like, if you're constantly scrolling, if you're constantly engaging with the news, you're actually going to be less informed because there's no time to process any of that. It's just a constant feed of shit. Endless shit. And that's not, like, good for your brain. And I found that now I feel like I actually understand more what's going on because my brain has time to, like, actually process the absolutely batshit bonkers insane world we live in. And I've been dreaming again. That's something that kind of surprised me. I think I have been overloading my brain with social media and with news for so long that I stopped dreaming. Like, it affected the way I sleep. And now I'm starting to have dreams again, and I'm starting to remember those dreams because my brain is actually able to process what I am experiencing. And I think, so if you can't fast from, like, food, I do recommend fasting from the news, fasting from social media, finding some way, quitting smoking. I'm not going to do that. I need to. I should. I should quit vaping, but this is not my year. I will say that. It's not my year. I don't know if it ever will be. Speaking of which, let me just go to the side here. So, but yeah, I think there is, because I think that the point, right? A lot of the point is to detach yourself from your identity as a consumer. I think that for Americans is something we could all benefit from. Because then you find your identity through other things, right? Through community, through creativity, right? So through knowledge. And one thing I've also realized is that now that I'm stepping away from the news, I'm engaging more with the types of media I liked before the world. The world's always been a little hellish, but, like, before the, like, pre Trump 1.0, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like I've slowly stopped engaging as much with my hobbies, with the things I enjoy doing, because I feel like I need to be plugged in all the time. Like, if I'm scrolling, eventually I'm going to find some sort of answer that'll fix all this shit. But I haven't found that at all. And so I'm engaging more with my faith. I'm engaging more with just entertaining books. I'm reading right now. So I have some nonfiction books I'm reading right now. Inspired. I'm reading by, who is that minister? Now I gotta look it up. So I'm reading that. Not the one by Mary Kagan, which is the opposite of what I am reading. There's apparently one called Inspired, How to Create Tech Products Customers Love. That is not what I am reading right now. I am reading Inspired by Rachel Held Evans, which is entirely different. So it talks about like biblical inspiration, like, because, and what it means for something to be, like, divinely inspired, and it gives some, like, examples of that. It's really lovely. She's a progressive minister. She's unfortunately passed away, but this is the first of her books I'm reading, and it's very nice. It doesn't have the edge of somebody like Nadia Bowles-Weber, who I love the work of Nadia Bowles-Weber, because I occasionally need to need to read a book that's written by another minister who's also an asshole. A lot of clergy, God bless them, a lot of clergy I spend time around and talk to, they all feel like good people. And I'm not a good people. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I try to be a good people. I'm a better people than I was before. But I'm a little rough around the edges, you know, and occasionally I like to read work from other people who are a little rough around the edges, because I fundamentally think that is what a great deal of my religion is, right? It is being rough around the edges and learning to walk through life as a flawed human being, right? And so I've always appreciated clergy who are a little bit wild, you know, a little bit of wild cards. And I appreciate clergy who are wild cards, and I appreciate clergy who are from like marginalized backgrounds. I don't get a whole lot from straight white man preachers. I'm trying to even think of the last straight white man preacher I even read. I guess it would be Bonhoeffer. Like, but I feel like Bonhoeffer is like, it's Bonhoeffer, you know? Like, he's known for one thing. So I've been reading, I think he was probably the last straight white man minister I've read books from. Before that, I think it was probably Shane Claiborne in terms of more like contemporary work. And I like Shane. I disagree with Shane on many things. I think he is naive in some aspects and misguided in others. But overall, he's got the spirit. You know what I mean? He's got the spirit. And I can appreciate Shane Claiborne for who and what he is. And he does good work. You know what I mean? Like, he does good activism work. I appreciate that he's like always on the front lines when it comes to stuff like the death penalty. I definitely appreciate him for that. He is always on the front lines when it comes to like homeless rights. He's been on the front lines when it comes to stuff like Gaza and ICE. He's been very, very good on those issues. And I really, really appreciate him for that. And even the stances I disagree with him on, I find that him at least reasonable. You know what I mean? I disagree with him on, for example, I do think he is pro-life, but he is pro-life in a very consistent way. Like I said, I definitely disagree with him on that subject. And he is very much of the mindset of like, okay, I don't agree with this, but I also understand that right now it is a necessity for the health and well-being of women. And I also think it is far less important than like stopping wars or making sure that children have access to food, that they're not starving. Those things take precedent for him. And so even though I definitely deeply, deeply, deeply disagree with his stance on that, I I do at least, it is at least a consistent worldview, which is more than I can say for a lot of conservatives. So, yeah, I think, you know, Shane's good. He's a good man. He's doing his best. But for the most part, I don't get much from straight white male ministers. A lot of the people I read are either like lady ministers, like Rachel Held Evans, like Nadia Bowles-Weber. Wilda Gaffney is another one that I've been interested in lately. She does Womanist Midrash, which is fantastic. Highly recommend that. And then a lot of like black ministers as well. Like black male ministers. Of course, you know, you have your classics, your MLKs. I read recently Malcolm Foley, I believe his name is, The Anti-Greed Gospel. Excellent book. And then, of course, there's like A Theology of Liberation by Gustavo Gutierrez, A Black Theology of Liberation. God, I can't remember his name right now. Like I said, brain is bread. Who wrote that? James Cone. I knew his last name started. I couldn't remember if it was Cone or Cohen, and I didn't want to say it wrong. But James Cone is another fantastic author. And I've kind of been comparing and contrasting like Christian and Muslim black leadership in terms of how to engage with civil rights, and that's been a really fascinating journey. I still don't know where exactly I land on a lot of stuff. I kind of see them as two different ways of approaching liberation that kind of rely on each other. I don't think it's necessarily an either or. I don't think it's necessarily that the only way forward is this sort of like militant, violent revolution. I also don't think that it can be done entirely by, you know, nice, gentle, peaceful protest. I think that there has to be, because I think, you know, different people are going to respond differently to different ways of people protest, right? Like, there will be some people who they only understand power, right? And for people who only understand power, your peaceful protests a lot of the time, unless you're costing them money, in some way or another, they're not going to give a shit. They're not going to care. And I do think that, you know, when you have an enemy who literally does not have a conscience, there's only a certain amount of things you can do. And I am open, of course, to creative solutions, but I can't judge anyone for going that route or feeling it's the only option. But then I think you also need nonviolent protest, especially very disciplined nonviolent protest, which is something I haven't seen a lot of recently. Because I think of like the civil rights movement in the 60s, and those were people, like, there's pictures of them, like, where they would, like, they were taught to literally not respond at all to people pulling their hair, or having cigarette smoke blown in their face. Like, don't respond at all. And that kind of discipline is something I'm not seeing a lot in protests. One that kind of sticks out to me is that church protest that was done recently. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but I do think that protest could have benefited by being a more disciplined protest. I think it gave a lot of fodder that didn't necessarily have to be done. I think that people need to start thinking like, okay, what do I want to actually accomplish with this? Like, what do I actually want to accomplish with this specific action that I am doing? Because if your goal is to strike the fear of God into somebody, that has its time and place. You know what I mean? I don't know personally if I believe that that was the correct method for that particular action, if that makes sense. I think perhaps something a bit more disciplined could have had better results. But I don't know for sure. That's the thing. We're all throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So I think that those kinds of disciplined, like, nonviolent actions are really important, because when you are that disciplined, when you are literally doing nothing, right, then that, and people still attack you, because they will. Like, if somebody is a fascist and you're where you don't belong, they're going to attack you. They don't care. And so it can be a very powerful statement that you are simply existing in a place where you don't belong. And these people, sorry, God, I haven't eaten. And these people are still going to be cruel, right? And that is what shifts public consciousness. That is what gets people on your side. When people see that you are literally not doing anything wrong. Like, think of what happened in Minneapolis, right? Those were people who weren't doing anything wrong, and everyone saw it. Everyone saw with their own eyes, right? That these were people who weren't doing anything wrong, that they, like, especially, like, Good. She was like, I'm not mad at you. And I think that that was something that really changed public perception on ICE very quickly. What happened to Good and Preddy, those were people who were engaging in nonviolent action, and they were brutalized. And I think that sometimes that is something that's necessary, like a sacrifice of one's own body, to make the point that these people will brutalize you no matter what. And I've engaged in actions like that, where you got to learn to take a club, you got to learn to take a billy club, and it sucks. Actions like that suck. But I do think they serve a purpose. Because I think that those two things then end up setting in the public consciousness, right? Where they're like, okay, so these people are doing nothing. They're still being brutalized. And here's this more militant group, this louder group, and they're also being brutalized. So what option is there? What option is there? And I think that when you have those two groups working in tandem, then people start to realize that, right? Like, people do start putting things together. A lot of people are really stupid, but I do think that when those two sort of ways of going about protest, where you have like this like kind of community defense angle and this sort of like non-violent action angle, along with like a very robust mutual aid, I think that can be really beneficial. So I've been like comparing and contrasting a lot of like Black religious leadership to see what I can learn from them on that front. So those are kind of like the nonfiction books I've been reading lately. I like the idea of learning discipline within protests. While it is important to show up, I think it also matters on how you show up. Yes. I think, like I said, I think that people need to, when they are doing an action, I think a question people aren't asking themselves enough is, what is my actual goal here? What am I hoping to accomplish, right? Because, like, I don't think anything anyone's doing right now is wrong, right? I think that people just need to be very aware of what they are actually accomplishing by protesting in these very specific ways, right? Like, for example, No Kings. People were like, this is useless. Yeah. No, because it's a networking opportunity. No networking opportunity is useless. It's a time for, elderly people who might not be able to get out otherwise to come out and make their voices heard. And that did shake up the GOP a little bit, because they were like, oh man, these are like wine moms and old people, and those are usually our domain, right? Those are the people who vote for us. And so to see those people out was really, it very much upset them. You saw it on the news. So, these kind of networking opportunities, they're not bad actions. Like, they're good. You just have to be aware that that's what you're doing, right? You have to be aware that you're making an accessible event for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to come out, and you are creating networking opportunities, right? So, and that serves its purpose, right? That, I think, though, if you go into that thinking you're going to change the minds of politicians, especially the most evil politicians there are, I don't think that's really going to happen. I don't think you can go out and do something like the No Kings protest and the government's suddenly going to be like, well, my goodness, I had no idea that people felt this way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that those can appeal to conscience, because I think a lot of these people simply don't have one. They're running on like on greed for the most part. And so I think that, when you're doing something like that, you need to be very aware, like, this is the goal, right? This is community building, this is networking, this is setting up mutual aid, this is allowing people who normally wouldn't be able to come out and make their voice heard and feel like they're a part of something, allowing them to do that. It is not a useless action. There is no such thing as a useless action at this point. Now, I think some actions are overrepresented. For example, shit posting. I think that we could take some of our energy that we've been using for shit posting and dedicate it to other areas of activism. But I don't think anything we are doing is in and of itself bad or wrong. And I think that's the way we need to start looking at it. The Somali community made food for the protesters, or I was watching churches using their buildings to help with community organizing. Exactly. Like, that's the thing. Like, everybody's got a part to play in this, and I really wish we wouldn't see it as, no, I'm right and you're wrong. I wish we would see it as, like, we are all a part of this, and we all have a different piece to play, a different part to play in this symphony of freedom, really and truly. And I think that if we looked at it that way, we would find a lot more solidarity than we have right now. Because we need to stop looking at other people's actions as useless and start realizing, like, those people are a part of what I want to be doing. And maybe if I go to their thing, they will want to be a part of my thing too, right? Like, if you are a far leftist, you should be showing up at the No Kings protests with little pamphlets talking about what you believe and how you can, how your way of thinking, how your policy proposals are working. That's what we did at our No Kings protest. We had a table, and I've come up with a little thing called the 6H project. And we worked on it some of you may have actually worked on that with me, because it's definitely been like a community project. But I'm actually fleshing that out more with the people in my local community, and we're essentially writing our own Project 2025. right? Like the 6-H project is meant to be our version of Project 2025, our policy proposals, what we want to do. And so we're doing that. We are, engaging in mutual aid. By the way, speaking of our mutual aid, if you would like to donate to our food pantry, we really need to restock that. It got absolutely annihilated during the last community meal. So, we are trying to restock our food pantry. There, in the link in the description, there should be a link to our mutual aid wish list. And you can go there and see what we need and send that. You can also just donate to our mutual aid fund. That's Mothman Mutual Aid WV on Cash App. But so yeah, that's the nonfiction work I've been doing, right? That's the nonfiction work I've been doing, the reading I've been doing. The nonfiction, the fiction reading I've been doing, I've been reading Bob the Drag Queen's book, Harriet Tubman Live in Concert, which is just like a real relaxed kind of read. Comparatively, I should say. It's comparatively, because it's funny, it's got a sense of humor, and obviously it talks about really, really important historical events as well. But when you're reading like The Cross and the Lynching Tree, comparatively, Bob the Drag Queen's Harriet Tubman Live in Concert feels like a much lighter read. And then I'm also reading Carsick by John Waters about his road trip across the country. So those are my fiction reads that I'm doing right now. And then I also am finally getting to St. Augustine's Confessions. Oh boy. And that's a drag. That St. Augustine's Confessions is 12 hours long on audiobook, which simultaneously feels like way too long for anyone to be confessing, and somehow way too short for St. Augustine's Confession specifically. And I'm having a rough go of it with that one. So, but I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best on that front. Yeah. Well, we have been streaming for about an hour at this point, so I should probably go ahead and read my patrons. Do my shout outs. Let's see. I really do need to get more active on Patreon. Somebody on the exit survey said that they were like, this isn't as active as I expected it to be. And I really do need to start getting more active with my Patreon. It is what it is, you know? There we go. It's just, I feel like I'm constantly busy. Okay. All right. Let's get some shout outs. A special thanks to Alex Mole, Alex DeLong, Howie the Duck, Debbie Williams, Greg Norwood, Jennifer Davidson, Jessica Bednarek, Ariana, Emma Price, Lauren O'Connor, Caitlin, Nathan, Morgan Westerin, Eleanor Bucksbaum, Morgan May, River Johnson, Angelini Pellegrini, Faith Benamy, Kristen McSorley, Jacqueline Gordon, Devin Watson, Post-Punk Pastor, Pauline Gibson, Lucas Kempe Cook, and John Borg. A lot of appreciation to all of you. Thank you guys so much for everything you have contributed to me, to this community, helping me pay my bills. You guys are awesome. And I am going to try to get some more content out for you guys. Like I said, it really is just a time thing, because I'm dedicating now so much time to the church, like the physical church, and then I just work a lot at the car wash, and we are about to hit the busy season of the car wash, so it's gonna be a rough road, but I'm going to do my best to get some more out for you. I'm going to definitely... The reason you did not have 2 streams in this month, that's why I decided to do the stream today, because I only did 1 ministry live stream, and it was... The reason I didn't do a second one is because that Sunday happened to be my anniversary. And I was not going to do a live stream on my anniversary. My wife would have murdered me. So, you miss Interfaith. I know. I really need to get that up and running again. Let me talk to my team. Let me talk to my team and see what I can do. Okay? Because what we might be able to do, if I just absolutely fill the fuck out my Sundays, we might be able to get Interfaith to come back. Let me see what I can do on that front. At least once a month. We'll see what we can do. Okay? But as always, drink a water, eat a food, be kind to yourself, to your neighbor, and to the earth. Thank you guys again so much for everything you do. I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless.